Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the first part of the Kato Unitrack how-to video that I was gonna film for you guys as mentioned in my last update. Reason why I'm doing this is more people are using Kato Unitrack for their layouts, especially N scale, some HO scale. So I've been seeing a lot of posts on the forums I'm part of, a couple of YouTube comments and Facebook groups I'm on. A lot of people asking how reliable is Unitrack, how good it is, how you wire it, how you put it on your layout. So that's primarily why I'm doing this video. I first would like to do two major shout outs to two guys that were very integral part in making me use Kato Unitrack and making me quite successful in it. First guy, he doesn't have a YouTube channel or YouTube page, but he's well known on certain railroad forums, model railroad forums. His name is Bob. He goes by Power Steam Guy in 1790, so he was very integral. One of my mentors, helping me through the Unitrack layout planning and how to properly install it, wire it, and all that stuff. And then the second guy, you guys should know him on YouTube. He's quite big on YouTube. He's Mike Fifer from Fifer Hobby Supplies out of New Mexico. I will post a link to his channel and store website, as well as I will give you a link to Bob's model railroad blog. He has actually an amazing N-scale railroad, as does Mike Fifer, both using N-scale Unitrack. So the first thing I want to show you guys is how to properly wire feeders to your Unitrack. Now, a lot of the guys that I followed and getting advice from that have been using Unitrack for about 10 or more years, they do suggest wiring every piece of track because although the Kato Unitrack unijoiners are one of the best in the industry, they will start to corrode over time and lose electric connection and conductivity. So there's two ways of doing it. You can either run feeders to the bottom of each unijoiner. There's a piece of metal there that's exposed. You can just solder your leads to each Unitrack joiner. What I actually do is I use a really good soldering iron. I use the Burnzomatic butane soldering iron. It has 4 settings, heats up really quickly, solders really nicely and cleanly and really quickly as well, has a nice fine tip. So as you can see, each piece of Unitrack has these little divots that are molded in to create your rail spikes that hold your nickel silver plated track. And what they actually have is quite a nice space right behind the unijoiner. So you get about a 1/8 to 3/16 slot. So what I do is I solder my feeders to each piece of track to those little divots. Gives you enough space to get in there and solder them. What I use is Cat5 or Cat6 network cable. I basically cut the sheaf off and separate the strands of wire. They give you 22 gauge solid copper wire, which is great for your leads, has really good conductivity. So you're going to have a really nice connection, really good leads, and really good electrical flow to your track, and is going to basically give you worry-free operations for years and years of your layout. Another thing that I wanted to show you is, although it is toy-like and it does have a plastic road bit already molded in, a lot of people think you're stuck with the size or you're stuck with the shape of Unitrack, which is not the case. I got these tips from Mike Fifer. I'm going to show you here. I pre-cut a piece. What you can do, you can actually make custom pieces of Unitrack. So what I did, I needed a 5-inch, I needed 5 inches off this piece of Unitrack to fit in my layout. So what you do, you measure 5 inches from the end of your track to your first cut. You cut that, then you take 3/4 of an inch from your total measurement of 5 inches, and you make another cut. Basically, it's going to be right behind this little support knob. Then what you do is you carefully remove the road bed off your track with your unit joint already removed. And what you do is you slide down the road bed to meet the other piece of road bed. You take really good track snippers or good cutting disc on a Dremel tool. You cut it even with the end of the road bed, reconnect your unit joiner, and then basically you have your custom piece of Unitrack. So you can definitely make custom straightaways, custom radii, so it is definitely a nice and forgiving track. It is also bendable. Let's say you need to make a small little curve or a small radius to join track, but Kato Unitrack doesn't supply the right radius already pre-manufactured. What you can do is you can do a couple of pre-cuts in the road bed, and as you can see, it is quite flexible, so you can actually make a little custom radii, a little custom turn. So again, very universal if you know how to play with it. In that regards. The other question I get a lot on the forums I'm at is, because Kato Unitrack switches are automatic routing, so that means is if you have a siding off a main and you have both switches flipped to the siding is powered, the main line between the two switches is no longer unpowered. So that is quite problematic for DCC operations. So what you would do, if you have, let's say, a turnout, you would wire leads to each end of the turnout. So you would wire leads here, here, and here. That goes with the crossover as well that Unitrack makes, and that will allow constant current going to all sections of the track. So if you do have a train going into the siding, you can still have your other train idling on the main line or going through the main line, depending how long your siding is. So that is a key to that. When I come back, I'm going to show you how to wire your layout once you have leads on every piece of track. A lot of you guys might think if you are going to do leads to every single piece of track, you are going to have a bird's nest underneath your layout. That is not the case. So when I come back, I will show you how I wired my layout. Okay, be back in a few. Okay guys, so this is how I wired my layout and kept it all nice and clean. So what I have here is a 16 gauge bus lines running along the perimeter of my layout, basically following the track plan above. So nice and simple. It isn't a solid wire bus line. I couldn't find any solid wire at the time I was wiring my layout for a really decent price. So it is stranded copper wire. You are better off getting solid copper wire wherever you can. Just gives you better conductivity and less resistance along further lengths of wire. Again, my leads from the track are still the 22 gauge solid copper wire from the network cables. So what I do to keep it nice and clean and maintained, I bunch a few strands together from each polarity. So I keep my pluses with my pluses, my negative with my negative, or sorry, positive, positive, negative, negative. And then I connect 3 to 4 leads, basically crimp them together, kind of braid them together, and then attach them to the bus line with suitcase connectors. The reason why I use suitcase connectors is because it's a lot easier than soldering the leads to the bus line. And if there's ever an electrical problem in the future, by chance, that you need to rectify, it's a lot simpler to pop the suitcase connectors open, chuck all your wires, put new suitcase connectors on rather than soldering, desoldering, and soldering in. For my main power distribution center, I use a simple power bar. Here right now I have my Kato power pack supply transformer securely zip tied to the power bar so it doesn't go anywhere. The future secondary slots are going to be for my accessories like my signaling and my lighting of my structures on my layout. Right now I use one plug for my work table light and a second one for powering tools like hot glue guns or any other accessories I need to work on the layout. So that's nice and clean and simple. So as you can see, although I have every single piece of Unitrack wired, you can see that you can have a very clean and simple a design of wiring underneath your layout. So again, no bird's nest. You're not going to get lost where your cable's running to. Pretty much you can see where my switches are. Where you see more of cables bunched up is where my switches are. Less cables bunched up is where my straightaways are. So it's going to be very simple in the future. If I need to rectify any problems, which knock on wood, I should not have to. As for my control base right now, I created this nice little pull-out shelf for my Kato power pack. I haven't decided if I'm going to keep this once I get my NSE power cab to do my DCC operations. I'm either going to keep this as my turnout control panel, or I'm going to completely get rid of this, or maybe just keep it to keep my throttle, my NEC throttle in here for the time being. So I haven't decided on that yet. So when I come back, guys, I will show you how to properly mount your Unitrack to your layout and how to weather it and ballast it to actually make it look like any other flex track or conventional track. Basically changing your toy-like appearance of Kato Unitrack into something more realistic. So I'll be back with that. Alright guys, so how I mount my Kato Unitrack to the layout, to the sub base, is I use a fine bead of hot glue along each side of the rail. Reason why I did that is, number one, it's very highly available to me. I used hot glue for all my cardboard lattice skeletal work for my mountain terrain before I plastered it. So I had a lot of low temperature hot glue sticks available, so I just decided to use that to put down my track. The other reason is if I ever decide to dismantle my railroad and start a new one, or if I ever decide to change my track plan a little bit, all I got to do is, once I remove the scenery, is peel the bead of hot glue, as you can see here, off, and I can safely remove my track without worrying about dissolving glue, using putty knives or spatulas or knives trying to pry track off, possibly destroying the pieces or damaging the pieces. So that's how I mount my track to the sub base. Now, the number one key with Kato Unitrack pieces, because the Kato Unitrack is very flexible, the turnouts have a tendency to kink and warp if you have them on an incline or on a non-flat surface. My layout is actually all flat surface. If you watch my videos, it does look like the train does change elevation from time to time. That's done through optical illusion for the scenery, but my entire layout's on the same grade, same elevation. Like I said, I just used the scenery to give an optical illusion of elevation change. But what you need to realize is you do not glue your switches down. What I did is I did about a 1/4 inch of glue into the switch, so it keeps my connection solid, so I don't get any misalignment of my rail edges for derailments. If you do have multiple switches in series, like for my yard lead, you don't want to leave them all unglued, because if you ever have major temperature changes or expansion in track, you will get a large dip or a large bump, causing your frogs again to stop working because of kinking or your train's derailing. So what I did to prevent that, but still have my turnouts as flexible as possible, is I just use about a 1/2 inch bead of hot glue down the middle of my second turnout and my third turnout, leaving my first turnout that leads into the small yard unattached. That still gives me enough flex and bounce in the turnouts without worrying about major kinks or major bows or flexing with temperature changes in the future. And the other thing you might have noticed in my other videos, and this video, is my track is very clean. You don't see any wires or any soldering on my track, because like I mentioned earlier, if you solder the leads either to the 2 holes behind the rail joiners or right at the bottom of the rail joiner, you can run all your wires in the hollow space of your road bed. Like, you can even see the way the joiners are designed, the way it's slotted. You can actually run wires from one piece to another if you use fine wire like I did, along a couple of straightaways where you can run a couple of pieces of Unitrack, run a few wires down the same hole in the center of the road bed right below the Unitrack, so it gives you a nice clean look without any wires exposed on the other side. So you're basically protecting your wire from future senior work, from any future cutting or scraping. You're not going to worry about cutting any of your feeders or your switch power cables either. So it's a nice little contained system. If you kind of think about it, it creates a very nice, clean look. Now, it still looks toy-like and cheap, as you can see here. Although Kato Unitrack is a high-end track, high-end nickel-silver track, very good on electric conductivity, very good performing, pretty much bomb-proof track. If you properly lay it down, it still looks toy-like. So if you do proper weathering and proper ballasting, you can actually make the track look quite realistic. Since I finished my landforms around my tunnel, I pre-ballasted that section along with the bridge, and before I even started that, I weathered all my track. So what I used to weather my track were the Flowquill 3-pack track weathering system. And as you can see, the camera might not pick it up, but stock Kato Unitrack, the ties are very shiny and toy-like. So what I did is I used the grimy black, and I colored in each of my ties. It took a long time, but I did the centers of the ties and the outer ties, basically getting rid of the gloss completely. And then I used the rusty grime greenish color to color the inside and outside of my rails to make it a nice weathered look. You might not be able to pick it up, but you can see there's shine on top of the track, no shine on the sides, compared to the stock Kato Unitrack, where you can see shine on the sides. You can see you can see it on the sides. On my track, nice and weathered and more realistic like. And then I used Woodland Scenic's ballast to do a nice clean ballasting job. So again, looks like any flex track or any other manufactured track out there, very realistic. And if you do it right, you're not going to notice where the track separates other than the gaps in the rail and the 2 railroad ties together where each piece of Kato Unitrack joins. So again, you can make it look very realistic. So I hope this video was very informative and answered a lot of questions for the guys that are modeling in Unitrack or people that were thinking of possibly trying Unitrack in the future. If you have any questions, comments, please post them. Please subscribe. I will answer any more questions you have in detail. I will be back in the next few days or about a week with part 2 of my Kato Unitrack how-to video, which is how to properly clean and prepare your track once for months to years of maintenance-free enjoyment, depending on the environmental conditions of your train room. My train room is an unfinished basement, so I will have to maintain my track a little bit more regularly, but not as regularly as before. I used to have to clean my track at least 2 to 3 times a month. Now I only had to clean my track last week because of all my scenery work, my plaster work, and this was the first time I had to clean my track in about 7 months, and it was just a quick polishing and cleaning of my locomotive wheels, and my track was basically back to top and working condition. It took me about 10 to 15 minutes to repolish my entire layout track and another 5 minutes to clean my locomotive wheels, and I was up and running in about 15 to 20 minutes versus me in the past spending about an hour to 2 hours cleaning my track 2 to 3 times a month. So I'll be back with that video. Again, I would like to thank you guys for watching, subscribing, and leaving your comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.